Hello everyone! A couple of you requested if I could make a video talk about the differences between the original Warcraft storyline and the movie adaptation. Basically the differences between the main universe and this alternate universe. I'd love to, and I started on a list full of confidence, but I soon realized that there are simply too many changes to list them all. Instead, I'm going to talk about 4 major changes, and feel free to add what you found in the comments down below. I'm sure that all of us together can make quite a list. A spoiler warning before we begin: if you haven't seen the Warcraft movie yet, or if you still want to read Bonds of Brotherhood, the Gul'dan novel, or the Warcraft movie novelization, and you're actually saving yourself, then please turn off the video right now. With that out of the way, let's begin, shall we? First up, the formation of the Horde. In the Warcraft movie, it's Gul'dan that brings the different clans together under the banner of the Horde. Their world of Draenor is dying, as they would later find out because of the use of Fel by Gul'dan, and Gul'dan promises them a world which will provide them with food, water, basically offer them a way to survive. We see Durotan, leader of the Frostwolf clan, together with Maid Draka and his best friend Orgrim Doomhammer, also of the Frostwolf clan. They join up with the rest of the Horde, gathering at the Dark Portal. He's introduced to people like Blackhand and Gromar's Hellscream, and they even have to decide who of the Frostwolf clan is going to join the Horde in their initial assault, and who's going to stay behind to wait for the portal to reopen. By draining the life out of captured Draenei in cages, Gul'dan opens the gateway and the Horde charges forward to a world unknown, but perhaps a world able to save them. In the original lore, things went down entirely different, yet it still led to the same conclusion. Where the Draenei in the movie are just used as fuel for the Fel, in the main universe, they were the whole reason that the Horde was formed. The origin story is very detailed, which is part of the reason why it was cut out, but just know that Gul'dan wanted the Draenei dead, but instead of using his own army, the Burning Legion, he decided to manipulate and corrupt the orcs, turn them against the Draenei, and have them do his dirty work. He made contact with the orcish shaman Ner'zhul, convinced him that the Draenei were evil, and Ner'zhul informed the other clans. Durotan, at this point in time, is also the leader of the Frostwolf clan, but the orcs gather twice a year to celebrate something that they called the Kosh-Arak festival. So the clans were already familiar with each other, and introductions were not required. Ner'zhul's words placed fear in their hearts, distrust against the Draenei, and the orcs prepared for war. Eventually, Ner'zhul figured out that Gul'dan did not have the best interest for his people in mind, but by that time it was far too late, and his apprentice Gul'dan took over. Gul'dan had no problem with leading their people to their doom if it meant that he was going to gain more power, so he eventually appointed Blackhand as war chief while leading the Horde from the shadows. Durotan was part of the Horde from the very beginning. He knew that the path that they were on was not the right one, but speaking out against the Horde would mean exile for his clan and almost certain death, so he was forced to go along. The elements eventually no longer responded to the orcs. They did not support the war of the Draenei, so shamanism was replaced with Fel magic, with warlocks, and the use of Fel corrupted their planet but also their people. Gul'dan eventually gave the orcs a gift that he called it demon blood to drink, which most of them did, and it gave them great power, but it also enslaved them to Gul'dan, to Gul'dan, and the Burning Legion.
Drink, Hellscream. Claim your destiny. You will all be conquerors. And what, Gul'dan, must we give in return? Everything.
Orcs like Durotan and his best friend Orgrim Doomhammer from the Blackrock clan, not the Frostwolf clan, they were wise enough to see that drinking this so-called gift was a very bad idea. The Draenei were nearly all exterminated. Gul'dan was satisfied. He left the orcs to their fate without giving Gul'dan the promised power, and now the orcs were in trouble. Their world was corrupted, brown, dry, and dead. Their people were corrupted. Those that drank demon blood, used Fel magic, or were even close that used Fel magic, all of them turned green. Voices rose up against Gul'dan, but luckily for Gul'dan, someone in need of the Horde and the corrupted Guardian Medivh showed Gul'dan the planet of Azeroth, a world with food, water, and plenty of enemies for the Horde to kill. The Dark Portal was built, empowered not by cages full of Draenei, but only one Draenei child, and the Horde charged forward to a world unknown, but perhaps a world able to save them. Next change on the list is the Guardian. In the movie, we see Medivh in the role as Guardian, a duty placed upon him by the Kirin Tor, and as we find out, he's corrupted by the Fel. Some of the scenes were cut out of the movie, but the novel adds that Medivh had been instructing Gul'dan, possibly even the one who showed him how to use Fel, and he invited the Horde to party on Azeroth to spread even more Fel. Probably the biggest change is that Medivh is the father of Garona half-Orcan. Remember how they mentioned that the Guardian went missing for a while and he had these scenes with Garona talking about the one he loved? He was talking about Garona's mother. Gul'dan even knew about this as he brought Garona over for Medivh to please him. The final confrontation takes place within Karazhan as Medivh does his incantation to keep the portal open for the orcs. Lothar battles with the Golem as Khadgar eventually dumps the Golem on the corrupted Guardian. The former apprentice then cleanses the Guardian of the Fel, and Medivh uses his last moments to keep the portal open. Not a portal to Draenor, instead a portal to Stormwind for the captured humans to escape. In his final breath, he explains the loneliness that he felt, and that's the end of the Guardian. In the original lore, things are a lot different, yet still lead to the same conclusion. Medivh was also a Guardian, but his corruption did not come from the Fel, nor were his powers granted to him by the Kirin Tor. Instead, it was his mother that was to blame for both his powers and his corruption. In her role as Guardian, Aegwynn battled with the avatar of Sargeras, and Sargeras is like the boss of Kil'jaeden, the leader of the Burning Legion. She thought that she won that battle, but instead Sargeras' spirit nestled inside of her, waiting for the right opportunity to strike. The Guardian's role is to defend Azeroth from threats, amongst them the Burning Legion, and wouldn't you know it, Sargeras leads the Burning Legion and he wants to see the planet of Azeroth fall. Infiltrating the Guardian, the main defense against his forces, was very smart, and when Aegwynn was told to give up her powers, pass them on to the next Guardian, she told them all to go F themselves. She had her own plans in mind. She seduced a mage at the court of Stormwind to have a child with, which she named Medivh. She granted the child her powers, but unknown to her was that the spirit of Sargeras had found the perfect host, and he nestled himself inside the child. Fast forward a little bit to around the time of the movie, and it's the corrupted Guardian Medivh. Medivh, with the spirit of Sargeras inside of him that sometimes controls him, they make contact with Gul'dan, and they show him the world of Azeroth.
The time has come! Gul'dan, order your warlocks to double their efforts! Moments from now, the gateway will open, and your horde will be released upon this ripe, unsuspecting world.
He builds the portal on Azeroth's side as Gul'dan does his thing. They let the orcs in order to weaken the world and make it easier to conquer for the Burning Legion. Khadgar is sent by the Kirin Tor to become Medivh's apprentice, and eventually Garona becomes an ambassador for the orcs, also staying in the Tower of Karazhan. Khadgar notices that something is off about his master, and eventually, together with Garona, they figure out that it was Medivh who let the orcs into their world. Garona, Khadgar, and Anduin Lothar enter Karazhan to confront the corrupted Guardian, with in the end Khadgar stabbing him and Lothar chopping off his head as the spirit of Sargeras tried to manifest. Now I mentioned that in the movie, Garona is Medivh's daughter, and you've seen how Anduin Lothar and Garona got it on in the movie, right? In the original lore, she got it on with Medivh. Now don't get me wrong, it's not what you think. In the original lore, Medivh never fathered Garona. She was said to be half human, half orc, but in the comics, they figured out that she's actually half orc and half Draenei. The Draenei Marad is her uncle. His sister, also a Draenei, gave birth to Garona, and considering that the other part has to be an orc, there's no Medivh in the picture. Funny enough, even though Medivh was corrupted by Sargeras, in a moment of clarity, as Garona was staying in the Tower of Karazhan, he found enough control to fall in love with her, and they had a child called Medan, but that's a whole different story. Next up, we have the birth and farewell of Go'el, also known as Thrall. In the movie, we see Draka going through the portal, and as she does, she goes into labor. She's about a month too soon. Baby Go'el is a stillborn, but Gul'dan doesn't give up on a new warrior for the Horde, and he uses his fel to ensure Go'el's survival. But by doing so, he turns his skin green. His farewell comes when Draka is on the run. She places his basket in the river, and she asks the spirit of water to take her baby and keep him safe. An orc that had been chasing her shows up. Go'el is taken away as his mother fights for her child by chomping down on the orc's neck and taking a knife to the gut. The final scene with Go'el is him being found by presumably Blackmore or Blackmore's servants, and for the longest time he would be known as Thrall. In the original lore, things happened a lot differently, with again the same end result. The birth of Goel is not described in such details. We know that Draka was pregnant before she stepped through the Dark Portal because she had revealed the name that they had planned, but the next moments that we really dive into their storyline is once the Frostwolf clan has been exiled out of the Horde. Durotan had figured out about Gul'dan ruling the Horde from the shadows, all for a lust for power and not for the good of the people, and he tried to speak out, but this action had consequences, and the Frostwolf clan, they found themselves on their own. Goel was born, and although he was born healthy, he was like his parents, the color green. Like I mentioned earlier, the orcs became corrupted by the use of fel and drinking demon blood. And even those that did not use fel directly, like Durotan and Draka, they found their skin color changed, and this passed on to their children. With the birth of their son, Durotan knew that they had to take action, that their child and their people deserve better than Gul'dan. They had to tell someone, and he wanted Draka to stay behind and take care of their child. But she was Draka, and no one would forbid her to follow her mate, not even Durotan himself. She was fierce, she was his heart, like he was hers, and together they met with their longtime friend Orgrim Doomhammer, and they told him everything they knew. Orgrim promised them that when the time was right, they would stand side by side as they would slay the great betrayer Gul'dan together. That moment, unfortunately, would never come, since Gul'dan's assassins were waiting for Durotan and Draka. These two fought fiercely, but were outnumbered and overwhelmed. Their son was left to die in the wilds, but fate had different plans in mind for young Goel, as he was found by Blackmoor, and for the longest time, he would be known as Thrall. And then finally, we have the death of the king at Mak'gora. In the movie, we see King Lane on the battlefield at the Dark Portal. At his side stands Garona half-Orcan, trusted friend and comrade as they hold the line against the orcs, trying to buy the rescued prisoners some time to run through the portal and get the hell out of there. Unfortunately for them, the Guardian Medivh can no longer hold the portal, and quite frankly, they're doomed. There's no reason for both of them to die in vain. Lane turns to Garona and tells her to take his life. Claiming the kill would make her a hero amongst the orcs, and perhaps in time her position would allow her to bring peace between the orcs and the humans. All she had to do was to kill a true friend. All she had to do was become a traitor in the eyes of the one she loved. All she had to do was use the dagger gifted by the queen and use it to take her husband's life. Garona did what she had to do, and next we see Anduin Lothar fly down to collect the body of his king, of his longtime comrade and friend. He nearly makes it out of there as well, so stunned are the orcs by his actions, until a fel-infused Black Hand. They don't use demon blood in the movie, instead Gul'dan infuses them with fel. A fel-infused Black Hand smacks the griffin down, and he challenges Lothar to Mak'gora, a duel of honor. Black Hand lost his hand to this human, and Lothar lost his son to this orc. Both of them charge at each other, with Lothar claiming victory. Gul'dan calls out to the Horde to not let this human get away. Kill him, you fools! But the Horde still has its honor, and it lets the lion go. Back at Stormwind, they hold a funeral, and the death of the king is able to unite the kingdoms under one banner, under one goal. United under the banner of the Alliance to fight, and try to save their world from being conquered by the orcs. In the original lore, the death of the king went a little bit different, yet it was still the same person who struck the killing blow. Garona half-Orcan was an ambassador for the orcs, but she was also a trained assassin, magically aged by Gul'dan, with spells placed on her mind. I actually wonder how old Garona is in the movie, if Gul'dan also magically aged her. Otherwise, Lothar might have some explaining to do. Either way, Garona meets up with the humans, also becomes a trusted friend, but then those spells placed in her mind are used to make her obedient, are used to turn her against her friends and betray the king.
Bad news, sire. The clans are united under Black Hand in this assault. They will stand together until Stormwind has fallen. Gul'dan is bringing up his warlocks by nightfall. Until then, the Blackrock clan will be trying to take the eastern wall.
1,000 deaths. We will hold until the reinforcements come. As long as men with stout hearts are manning the walls and the throne,
mortals, before the coming of the end.
Hold.
The orc leaders agree with your assessment.
within Stormwind Keep. In front of young Varian Rin's eyes, Garona betrays them all as she murders the king. There was no Makura challenge after this moment, since with the death of the king, Stormwind soon crumbled, and Endo and Lothar knew that they had to get the people out of there as fast as they could. Stormwind fell to the might of the orcs. The survivors set sail to Lordaeron, where Lothar warned the world of the threat of the Horde, and the kingdoms united under the banner of the Alliance to fight, and try to save the world from being conquered by the orcs. And those are some of the major changes to the lore when it comes to the movie adaptation. Like I said at the start, I started working on this video with a list mentioning every little detail, and right at page 2 of the novel, I already had like 15 changes. So I think that this format worked a lot better. If you take anything away from this video, then let it be that the story told in the movie is not the same as the use for the game. Some like to use the term movie adaptation, some use the term alternate reality, but either way, the point still stands. You have these events that took place in the movie, but that's its own little bubble. The main universe lore has not changed, and the road traveled is a lot different in the movie, but the end destination is pretty much the same. And with that, we've reached the end of the video. As always, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, guys, see ya!